Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the MP145. It's an IEM by Hidizs that I've been sitting on for 3 weeks waiting to release this video because it's kind of nice, but how nice? That's the question I'll be answering obviously in this video. That's the whole point. There's two things you need to know though. Number one, this is a Kickstarter program starting at $109 and will go up in price after the first limited time offer to I think about $150. Nonetheless, I'll be testing it at 3 different price points just so you know what you're getting into. Number two, on the Kickstarter page, it says that it's a collaboration between Hidizs and the WDC, the Whale and Dolphin Conservation Society, which is a very nice thing. Now, the first thing that comes to mind when I see this kind of collab is, oh, a part of my money goes to whale conservation? That's good. But actually the page doesn't say anything about this. All it says is that they were inspired by whales, they support what the WDC does, and that they're raising awareness. I've reached out to Hidizs, they haven't replied yet. But there is one other thing I want to point out. Now, in the past couple of weeks, there have been a couple of red flags. An unnamed brand that I have recently started working with may or may not have asked me what I'm going to say in my review multiple times after being said no multiple times. And then they stopped. But if you're watching, and I know you are, you don't have to. It's just going to be a PR nightmare. Some of your products are good. They'll speak for themselves. Don't do this. Okay. Having said that, let's get into it with the MP145. Now, this is a large planar magnetic IEM. When I say large, I mean large in every way. 14.5mm planar driver, that's massive. But the IEM itself is an absolute chungus. They say the design is inspired by a whale's tail fin. I believe it. I think it looks fantastic. It's different, it's fetching. And I love the fact that they have hidden this vent inside the design. I like it when people do new things, and this is a new thing and it looks great. But check this out, right? In my ear, that is not a small IEM. And it's not just that. See, I've got my little orange calipers here. The nozzle diameter, I can tell you right now, oh wow, that's about 6.8, 6.9 millimeters. I mean, 6.8, 6.9 millimeters is approaching hentai levels of, never mind. This is not for small ears, but it is a beautiful looking IEM. Now, it comes with 3 different filters and 3 different ear tips for 9 different sound signatures. And I'm going to tell you in this video how I don't use any of them. I'm going to explain to you why in a bit. Now, it does come in 3 colors, but they've sent me this dark champagne color and I think it looks just beautiful. The cable's fine, nothing to write home about. It's fine. Now, about the sound. There's a thing you need to know first. This is a V-shaped IEM. And you might ask, hey, what is a V-shaped IEM? That makes no sense. Let me tell you. Basically, you bass boost, right? And then to combat that, you treble boost. That way you get a nice lively sound, a fun sound that a lot of people like. But you gotta know that there are a couple of caveats that come with this sound signature that you can't get away from unless you change it with EQ or something. These are the caveats. Number one, it's going to be lively, it's going to be fun, but the lower mid-range, so deep male vocals, grungy guitars, that sort of thing, all of that is going to sound a little more muddy. That boosted bass bleeds into the mids and it becomes a bit much. But a lot of people consider that as a nice warm sound, so it really depends on what you like. The other side of it is that the mids vocals, they're very forward and they lose a bit of imaging. So the vocals in this case is always front and center, it's very in your face, it's really nice. But sometimes when vocals are meant to come from a little farther back and whatnot, they do not. So you lose a bit of that imaging and you lose a bit of spaciousness. You also get a fair bit of treble forwardness, which is still controlled, but it's very much there. And the effect of that is it gives you the impression of more detail because it pushes certain things like trumpets, the hi-hats on a drum set, pushes those things forward, gives you the impression that there's more detail. That being said, how does the MP145 sound? Okay. I think Hidizs have done a very good job because they've pushed the V-shape a bit, but they haven't pushed it so far that you lose all space and imaging and that things are too fatiguing to hear. This is actually not bad. The treble, in my opinion, is a little bit fatiguing for longer listening sessions, but I tend to like treble a little bit on the darker side anyway, unless it's really even. Now, I did mention that I don't actually use any of the ear tips and filters, and Let me explain why. So the tips that come with it are either balanced, which is the stock tuning, and bass boost or vocal boost. Now, a bass boost is not something you really need here. I don't think so, because I think it's got enough bass without being too much, without bleeding into the mids too much and making it too muddy. A vocal boost is also very much not needed. Like I've said, the vocals are front and center, they're very forward, they're very lush, they're very in your face. You don't need a vocal boost. So the stock tips just do it right, in my opinion, so I don't use the other two. Now, it also comes with 3 different types of filters. So you've got the rose gold filter, looks lovely, is bog standard. That's the standard tuning. Then you've got the silver tips, which actually push the vocals forward. They do nothing to the bass or the treble. They just push those vocals forward a bit. Again, not required, because the vocals are already pushed forward. They're already in your face. How much more do you want? I wouldn't opt for it. The red filters, on the other hand, are a little more interesting because they mellow it down a bit. Again, only in the vocals. Don't do anything to the bass, don't do anything to the treble, they just mellow down the vocals. And that's interesting to me because it increases the sense of spaciousness in the sound and also just brings everything down a notch, just mellows it out a bit. But because it doesn't change the treble sounds off kilter, like it sounds disproportionately pushed forward compared to the mids. It doesn't sound right to me. So I end up using the stock rose gold filters with the stock balanced tips. I just think it works better than all the other options. So yeah, that's the one I would recommend. Now, the only way I'm going to explain to you how good this is or how not good this is by comparing it with things. So let's say you go on to Kickstarter immediately and get that limited time $109 offer. What does it go up against? Well, it goes up against a lot, but one obvious comparison would be the 7Hz Dioko. Now, you'll notice how I will not ask you to subscribe, not once throughout this whole video. Not once will I ask you to subscribe, just watch. Now, when the Dioko came out, it made big waves, but the fact is it had some big issues. It had that treble inconsistency. It's just really uneven, and the bass sounded hollow when it punched, and compared to that, the MP145 runs circles around it. Honestly, the Dioko is a more relaxed sound signature. It has better, cleaner mid-range maybe, but the MP145 is meant to be a more V-shaped sound signature, but it gives you better bass. It's not hollow, it's nice and full and punchy, and it's got nice sub bass, and it has, in my opinion, a more even upper mid and treble. So for my money, for the $100 price point-ish, is the MP145 over the Dioko. But what if you miss out on that $109 price point and you have to spend more? Let's compare it with something like the S12 Pro. I know that's a crowd favorite. I haven't heard it, so this is going to be an academic comparison only. Let's pull up the frequency responses, and going just by the frequency responses, the big thing is the treble. I think the MP145 pushes treble forward, but nowhere near as forward as the S12 Pro, and that is a good thing because it means less fatigue for longer listening. For my money, looking at the graph alone, I think the MP145 is a better deal in terms of just tuning, if nothing else. Again, I haven't heard the S12 Pro. This is purely an academic exercise. So let's compare it with something I have heard. Let's go straight up to the 7Hz Timeless, which I still consider pretty darn good for various technicalities. Compared to the 7Hz Timeless, okay, here's the deal. The 7Hz is a different signature. It's a little more relaxed in the mids, a little cleaner, a little more spacious, better imaging. All of those things are true. However, the MP145 is not going for that. It's going for a more fun, slightly more V-shaped signature, and it achieves that with roughly the same technicalities that the 7Hz Timeless does. It's just that this tuning is not going to give you those characteristics all the time. Still, you get some spaciousness, you get a decent amount of imaging for everything except the vocals, and you get a more fun sound. And in terms of resolution and technicalities, I think the MP145 is every bit as good as the Timeless. So, depending on your signature, I think choosing the MP145 is actually a valid choice against the Timeless, which is high praise. Basically, Hidizs seems to have made a good planar IEM. Now here's the problem. We're getting dangerously close to the $200 price point, and at that price point, I just recommend everyone go for the Quintet. Comparing this with the Quintet is it's just better. The Quintet is just better. Smoother frequency response off the bat. The treble forwardness in the Quintet is there, but it's so much smoother. It's just even. And because of the overall sound signature, it's a more spacious, more three-dimensionally spacious presentation. Imaging is really good. Vocals sound more nuanced. It's just a better IEM in almost every way I can think of, and it's got that technicality to boot. So my recommendation for that price point is still spring for the Quintet. That's my favorite right now. But anything lower than $180 where you're not tempted to go to that $220 price point. And I think Hidizs have done a great job of making a V-shaped IEM without going overboard. Fast driver, great transients. This is a good IEM. And if you happen to snag that initial $109 price point, this is a no-brainer. If it goes up to $150, I still think it's very, very good. Hidizs did it. And can I just bring to your attention how I still haven't asked you to subscribe not once through this video? Yeah, I mean, a pat on the back to me, if anything else. I'll see you in the next one. Stay happy, stay peaceful, stay colorful. Namaste.